Welcome, nerds, once again to the news. We're going to try and rush through this one because I've got a limited amount of time and we've got a lot to get through. So this week, what happens when one of the most highly anticipated games of the year gets canceled all of a sudden? This week we're going to be looking at how a major publisher shut down an entire company and did just that. Also on the list this week in TV, we're going to talk about how one of the showrunners, executive producers, creators of one of the biggest shows in the world just up and walked away. Also, how the hell heavy metal icons are headlining at a Comic-Con? Plus, we have movie adaptation of legendary fighting game that just announced its official cast, and honestly, my mind's blown, so hopefully yours will be too. And then we have a rumor confirmation that fans have been kind of hoping for a few years at this point has now actually come to fruition, and we're gonna get into that, and honestly, a whole bunch more, so don't forget to grab your dubby and let's roll. So this week in music, nerds, how does a band honor the legacy of a legendary member who's no longer with us? We're going to talk about that. It's actually kind of cool. Also going to be looking at a mysterious new website from one of the leaders in the heavy metal community and what it might be implying or implicating, things. And finally, we'll be making sense of the fact that a Comic-Con has the Prince of Darkness as one of the headline attractions. All of that and quite a bit more in music this week, so let's roll. Okay, so follow-ups and corrections in the music section. We have 3 Days Grace starting things off. This is just a real quick one. The guys in 3 Days Grace, their song, I Hate Everything About You, you know it. Of course you do, because it just crossed over 1 billion, billion with a B, plays on Spotify. So congratulations is in order to the guys out in 3 Days Grace. Not that I'm necessarily a big fan, but that's pretty momentous for any band, so it's worth celebrating. Next in the follow-ups, Dimmu Borgir, if you'll remember, lost their guitar player a little while ago. Gildir, I think was his stage name. Galder, rather. He left to go focus on his other band, Old Man's Child. Well, they have finally found a replacement for Galder, and it is, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his actual name very well, so I apologize in advance. The stage name is Damage, but Jell Carlson is the guy who's stepping into the guitar spot for Dimmu Borgir. He is also the frontman for the band Chrome Division, whom I am unaware of, but that's a thing. So pretty awesome there. Again, congratulations is in order. They can finally put out that next record and go on tour. And then we have a big follow-up on the Marilyn Manson situation, because that's still unfolding. Well, I don't know, maybe it's done now, but we officially know that Manson canceled that opening show. So the show that we talked about that everybody was protesting and had all the signatures and blah, 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 and the parliament and so on and so forth. Manson just said, all right, screw it. We're just not going to start the tour there, because that was the initial date on this European tour. Well, now he's canceled that date and all of the other dates seem to be unaffected. So I guess that was the solution. It seems like he caved, but it also feels like, why does the British government really still care about this? I thought the Manson bashing died in the aughts. Like, this is just, I don't know, just feels really weird. Unfortunate for Manson, because that's less fans that can see him on this tour. Everyone who had bought tickets for the show their money has been returned to them, so there's that, but it just doesn't sit well. That is what we have for follow-ups. Let's move into new music. We have some new stuff this week from Sinsana. This is the band that Joey Jordison was playing with at the time of his death. This is not the music from that record that they did crowdfunding for. This is actually brand new music that they have written since their previous record. Their previous record was the first record that they had done without Joey. The other record is still, no, they've already done the release date, the release party and everything for that. So that's done and in the can. So you can go check that out. But this is new. The name of this new song is called Last Goodbye. This is the second single from their upcoming record In Devastation, which will be out in October, if I'm remembering correctly. Actually, no, there isn't a release date for it just yet. But it is noteworthy that the guy that they have sitting on the drum throne right now used to be the drum tech for Joey Jordison. His name is Andre. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name either. I just know it. Andre, maybe Joycey, something. That's their current drummer, their new drummer. So the new track we'll get into, breaking down the sound and the video and that stuff in this week's episode of That Just Happened, which I'm all caught up on now. Yay! But yeah, it's interesting. We'll talk about it in a little bit more detail in That Just Happened. That comes up next. From there, we have new music from the Foo Fighters. This is new music from their last record. First new music from since their last record. I'm sorry, I can read my notes. I really can. First new music since their last record. This is actually the second song they've released that isn't on the last record, but the first one that they released was a cover of the Minor Threat, good lord. It's a Minor Threat cover and it's awesome, but that's not new music. This new music is entitled Today's Song. Once again, we'll get into a much more in-depth breakdown in That Just Happened this week, but Foo Fighters starting to come back after the whole Dave Grohl controversy and so on and so forth. You like to see it. Hopefully, if these two songs are any indication of the quality we're going to expect off the next record, I'm super excited about the next record, but we'll see. From there, let's go over to the new Sanguisugabogg album that's been announced. This is their third full-length record. It is entitled Hideous Aftermath, set for release October 10th. The album also is, not only is it their new one, but it's like the first one where they have a whole bunch of over half of the tracks on here feature somebody. One of the tracks features the entire band of Peeling Flesh, apparently, and then we've got a whole bunch of other vocalists from other metal bands. We've got dude from Nails, dude from Defeated Sanity, and even Calla Decapitation's Travis Ryan is guest vocaling on this record. So pretty interesting. Sanguisugabogg are kind of like the second coming of death metal for a lot of people. I understand it. They've released a new track off of this record, which we will talk about once again in this week's episode of That Just Happened. But yeah, pretty interesting. And then also I have to touch on this just because it's too epic not to. Go pick up the new Dead Guy record. It's out now. It's titled Near Death Travel Services. And if you like bands like Converge or Dillinger Escape Plan or the Callous Dowboys, then you're going to really appreciate Dead Guy, because these guys are one of the bands that influenced all of those other bands. Well, maybe not directly influenced Callous Dowboys. I don't know their influences offhand, but definitely directly influenced Converge and Dillinger Escape Plan and the bands like that. Botch was one of their contemporaries, so it's that kind of mathcore, melodic metal, whatever the hell you quantify those bands as. That's what these guys do, and they do it super well. They actually only released one record when they were around initially. This is their second full-length record, and they're doing super well with it. It's pretty freaking awesome. You absolutely should go check it out. Once again, Near Death Travel Services. It's a banger for sure. Not surprisingly, not our suggestion for this week. We'll actually get to that in a minute. But that is what we have for new music. Let's talk about some regular ass news. Coming out the gate for this one, swinging a little bit, we have Slipknot in the news because they are teasing something on a new website. You can find it linked down in the description. You have to put in a code or a password, it would seem, once you put in the words "Come Play Dying," which is part of the marketing for their first record, which the website is the technical title of their first major label record. Not Meet, Feed, Kill, Repeat, but the other one, the one that has Sick and Eyeless and all that stuff on it. That's the website, so obviously this is tied somehow to their first record. Also, kind of leading us down a path here. They are currently on tour in Europe. They just finished a US tour last year that is the 25th anniversary of the first record. So like that is kind of on the brain for these guys. And we also have Jim talking about how they are trying to write a new record. So once they're done in Europe, they're not going to be coming back to release really anything new. They're going to come back and write something new. So we've got a little bit of time before we actually hear from the band in new material, which means we've got a little bit of a gap of time that seems to possibly be going towards potentially being filled with a box set commemorating 25 years of the original, the first album. Some people call it the self-titled. That's not technically accurate. Actually, what's really cool, a little bit of Slipknot trivia for you real quick. The title of that first label record is the barcode from Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. When they registered the barcode for that very, very first album that they put out themselves, that was the barcode that they then used to title their first major label record. So that's why it's a bunch of random numbers, because it's the barcode. So if you didn't know that, now you know. And the more you know is half the battle or something. So continuing on. We don't know for certain that it's going to be a box set from Slipknot. It just really feels like that's where they're going with this. We'll hopefully find out soon and we'll keep tabs on it. Next up on the list, we have Comic-Con Midlands. Apparently, there is a Comic-Con in Birmingham, UK. I don't know exactly what part of the UK that's in, but Birmingham. And some of the big names on this are heavy metal acts. The biggest heavy metal act, to be specific, Ozzy freaking Osbourne, is going to be at this Comic-Con. Not just Ozzy, but his whole family. So, well, not his whole family, but the family that participated in the reality TV show. So Sharon and Kelly and Jack are all going to be there. Also, Kelly's husband is going to be there, whom you might know is Sid Wilson from Slipknot. So there's going to be Slipknot panels at this Comic-Con. Why don't I live in Europe, by the way, in the UK specifically? Because this is kind of awesome. Well, I don't know. There's a laundry list of reasons why I don't, but this would be a good reason to live in the UK. But also featured on this is not just those two metal acts. We also have Randy Blythe is going to be there, doing something Lamb of Gotti, I'm sure, and then Scott Ian and Frank Bello, both from Anthrax, are going to be there. So this is kind of, and it's also functioning as just a regular Comic-Con. Again, it's called Comic-Con Midlands in Birmingham, UK. If you live in the UK or you're going to be there in the next couple of weeks, you should get tickets because it doesn't look like they're sold out, which is weird considering, but there you go. And like I said, they're gonna have other celebrities from like movies and stuff there, just like you would at a Comic-Con. So just a complete package. I don't know what to tell you. That is what we have for a regular S News though. Let's talk about our suggestion for the week. Like I said, not the new Dead Guy record, though that is a great record. You should go check it out. This week we're suggesting the Scion record, the first record, because actively right now Jared Dines and Howard Jones are working on a second Scion record, which I'm super stoked for. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, Jared Dines, YouTuber, also very good guitar player, plays with a bunch of other touring acts when they need someone to fill in. He's the guy that they go to a lot of times, specifically Trivium and Oni I can think of off the top of my head. He wrote a record and had Howard Jones guest vocal on it. I don't remember exactly how he met. Oh no, I do remember how he met Howard, because he was on tour with Trivium, and opening up for Trivium was Light the Torch, which is Howard's current band. And they struck up a friendship on the road, and he said, yo, I've got some music. And Howard's like, I would be really interested to play on that. And if you haven't listened to this record, let me describe it for you in just a real quick sentence. This is End of Heartache era Killswitch Engage, slightly updated. So it's an evolution. You can't, not unlike, As Daylight Dies, probably a little bit more of an evolution for the sound than that, but there are strong ties to that sound. Killswitch Engage around about the time that they put out End of Heartache. A couple of standout tracks on this record. We have, I just lost my place. Oh, right there. A couple of standout tracks on this record. We have The Blade, which is by far my favorite track on this record. Also, Great Deceiver and Skyfall are standout tracks, but legitimately, this is great from start to finish. If you like End of Heartache era Killswitch Engage, this is going to be your new jam. Swear to God. And then if you really like it like I think you're going to, you can, pick up the second one when they're done recording it and put it out and stuff. So that's your suggestion for the week. Scion's first self-titled record. All right, so before we get any more further or however far along we are, I just have to take a moment and we're gonna talk about Dubby real quick. This is the only one I have here in the studio right now, but I do have the s'mores in my kitchen, and I finally came and I can 100% certify that it's yummy. It's a little dangerous. It is just as much caffeine as every other Dubby that you get in the caffeinated W's anyway, because they do dehydrated doo-doo. They also do the hydration drinks, but the energy drinks, they all have about 250 milligrams caffeine. The s'mores is no different, so keep that in mind when you're mixing it with your milk instead of water. It's super yummy, so you can drink a lot, but maybe only have the 1 or 2 for the day. But it's legitimately hard to stop at 1 or 2 for the day, gotta be honest. Anyway, Dubby has partnered with the channel. I'm super grateful for their contribution. You can check out the link in the description, or you can just go to dubby.gg and use code GenerallyNerdy at checkout, and you will get 10% off of your whole cart. That's everything in your cart. A lot of the specials that they run on the site are just for the energy drink tubs or the hydration tubs, but my discount gets you 10% off of everything in your cart. You can't stack discounts, but you got to kind of figure which one's going to get you the better deal. 10% is pretty good when you go on everything, because you're going to need a mixer bottle too. Like, why not? They're only like $8 or something. So yeah, pretty awesome. Go check out GG. Super appreciative for their support. Let's get back to the video. Gaming and Tech this week, one of the big three, has announced an announcement. They made a pre-announcement that they're going to be announcing price changes, is the vocabulary specifically, but we'll see what happens there. We're also getting into how a publisher shut down a first-party studio, and in the process, therefore canceled one of the most highly anticipated games of the year. And finally, we have a little bit of an update on a Souls-like game that we've been keeping track of. Slick as hell kind of action kind of stuff that we've seen so far. Actually some good news there about the movement. We've got that and a little bit more. Let's get into this. Follow-ups and corrections in Gaming and Tech. We have 2. First up is Phantom Blade Zero. We actually have an update on this one. I have been waiting for this for a while. The developers are having a hands-on event at the end of July. They're going to reveal more about the game, but also hands-on event at the end of this month. This is the next probably super huge Souls-like from the look of it. Like, just looking at this and seeing the little bit of people who have been able to play the working demos, I have all saying its praise. It is a Souls-like, but from the accounts that I have heard, it is not necessarily as hard as a Souls game, but it is pretty close, like harder than everything else, just not quite that hard. If a proper Souls from FromSoft is 100% hard, this is like 95% hard. That's kind of where it sits. So yeah, pretty freaking awesome. I'm super stoked. We will be keeping tabs on this one because we have been keeping tabs on this one. Our other follow-up this week has to do with Halo. We now have an announcement for an announcement. Once again, this episode announcing announcements. We have Halo Studios has put out a roadmap on a blog that is leading to what is the World Championships? What is the word I'm looking for? Yeah, Halo World Championships. And according to some developers, kind of word of mouth at some of these Halo events, they're saying that there's going to be a very big announcement tied to all of these things that are working into Halo World Championships, which is going to be October 24th through 26th. And somewhere, I don't know exactly where I got this date, but somewhere it said that the 25th is the day that the announcement's going to happen. So that's kind of, take that with a grain of salt. It's a little bit of rumor. Maybe we should have put it in the rumor mill, but at this point, I feel like it's one of the worst kept secrets in Halo. So that's where we're looking. That is what we have for follow-ups and corrections. Let's talk about trailers. We kind of have, well, it's kind of 3, but also kind of one. It's one announcement that has a couple of trailers attached to it. It is the Marvel Rivals starting season 3. We have Phoenix and Blade trailers coming out, and they look pretty awesome. And I'm gonna be picking up Marvel Rivals again. That's not our suggestion for the week, but I'm gonna be picking up Marvel Rivals again probably in the near future. So that's the one trailer. Let's talk about some regular ass news. The big one this week is the price hikes, or the potential price hikes, technically speaking, because we don't know for certain what's gonna happen. But Nintendo has made an announcement for an announcement. See, there we are again with the announcement for the announcement. An announcement for an announcement that they're going to do something to the prices in the Canadian market. So it's a little weird. Canada doesn't have tariffs on everything right now, so why is it the Canadian market that's getting the price changes? A couple of quote-unquote leaks have let it out that this is very likely going to be price hikes on everything except for the current hardware. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is staying where it is, but legitimately even the Nintendo Switch 1 hardware is not getting cheaper now that it's older. It's getting more expensive, and Nintendo Switch Online is getting more expensive. Peripherals are getting more expensive. Like, this is very much looking like it is all going up and not down, even for older hardware, which is really weird, especially considering it is specifically for Canada. The official announcement is set to come out on the 1st of August, so we have approximately a month before this is set in stone, that this is exactly what's happening and the leakers are confirmed. But it's kind of at this point, like, again, one of those worst kept secrets in gaming. So we have prices going up in Canada, which means the States are not very far behind. Very interested to see, though, what happens in the European market. Not super likely to go down in Japan, go up rather in Japan, except for Nintendo Switch Online, because the way Nintendo views their properties, the way Nintendo views the things they sell, makes sense that they would increase the cost to access those things, because we have many more games on the Nintendo Switch Online service. So if we have more games, that means it's worth more money, right? That's how that works. I mean, for Nintendo, maybe that is how it works. But if this was any other company, I feel like they would be losing subscribers wholehandedly. But we don't know how much the prices are going up yet officially. We also don't know for certain, for 100% absolute certain, that they are going up. We're just making educated guesses at this point. So that is what we have for price hikes. Let's talk about kind of the opposite thing. Well, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it, but Microsoft has gotten rid of stuff. Oh man, so they have now officially closed the initiative. They've gone through another round of layoffs. So layoffs throughout a good chunk of the company, but the biggest portion that suffered layoffs was the initiative, an in-house developer that was actively working on Perfect Dark. The remake of Perfect Dark is now apparently canceled by all accounts because the initiative, the developer that was making it, is no longer there, doesn't exist. Not only that, but the relationship between Microsoft and Crystal Dynamics, the other developer that they were bringing in to help the initiative, has now ended. Crystal Dynamics still exists, but they're no longer working on Perfect Dark because there's no Perfect Dark to be worked on, so there's no more relationship between Microsoft and Crystal Dynamics. This is ridiculous. This is one of the most anticipated FPS games since, I don't even know, since probably like Halo 4 or something. Like, this is insane. This is supposed to be a good year for gaming, and we just lost Perfect Dark reboot. That's rough. But that is what we have for regular ass news. Let's talk now about our suggestion for the week. Legitimately can't stop playing Mortal Kombat, so that's where we're going with our suggestion. We don't have much time. There is a rumor, and we're not going to talk about this in the rumor mill because it's been going for some time, but there is a rumor that at the Mortal Kombat finals, there will be some sort of similar announcement to the Halo announcement we're expecting at Halo World Championships. So, Final Combat this year, hopefully we will be getting some sort of announcement for the next NetherRealm game, because I put money on it being some sort of DC related thing, either Injustice or MK vs. DC Volume 2. I think that would be super awesome. not holding my breath for it. If I had to put money, I would say it's going to be Injustice. But either way, Mortal Kombat is on its last leg. So now's our final hurrah to enjoy it, because that is absolutely what I've been doing. And you should too. That's your suggestion for the week. Comic books and books. This week we have, for decades, this guy's appearance in the world that he lives. I'm trying to keep it vague for the intro. In the world that he exists was kind of the catalyst for a lot of things. Well, we're getting a reboot, a rewrite, retcon, if you will. We also have a legendary artist going from one of the big two over to the other. It's kind of a big deal because he's been writing for the first one for a long time. And then there's some behind the scenes drama for a Legacy-quel comic book series. It's going to be continuing the story of a famous 90s animated series, but the original creator of said 90s animated series is not going to be part of it. There's a lot here. We actually have a decent sized comic book section, so let's get to this. So we have no follow-ups, we have no trailers, we have no corrections, we just have regular ass news. This week in regular ass news, we've got a few things to talk about. First up, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to be specific. The current animated show that is the spin-off from the most recent animated movie is getting a prequel, well, a bridge comic, I guess you could say, because season 1's done, season 2's coming soonish, so they're putting out it's 2 separate books. There were conflicting reports on this, so I think somebody had a typo somewhere, but it sounds like it's going to be 2 separate books. Each of them are going to be 3-issue mini story arcs. So 6 issues of new comics telling 2 different stories between now and when season 2 launches. Written by Mike Levitt for one of the stories. The other story reportedly is going to be written by Andrew Yaustra, maybe is how you say that last name. I apologize. There's going to be new characters that were created for this new series in the comic. Also, characters from other Ninja Turtle lore that aren't yet in the animated series are also going to be in the comic, presumably lending towards them happening in the animated series as well, which would be dope. But that is what we got on that. That's all we really know at this point. I honestly don't even think there was an official release date just yet. If there was, I didn't write it down. So if I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. From there, we have kind of a big one when it comes to the rivalry, quote unquote, between Marvel and DC, because Marvel is losing one of their biggest artists in Steve McNiven. He's going to be joining Tom King on his new Batman book starting in 2026. McNiven is a staple in the Marvel world. He's been working with Marvel for about 24 years, if memory serves, and so this is huge. Even Rob Liefeld chimed in on this one on social media, said he's glad he abandoned that sinking ship when he did, because apparently this is just more a sign of the times for Marvel, because they're losing one of their greatest artists to DC. So yeah, the book, again, 2026. I don't have any more of a specific release date for that. But yeah, this apparently is the sign that Marvel is actually collapsing under its own weight. And I don't know, maybe it needs to do that. I mean, last time this happened to Marvel, we got the MCU, and that was a good thing for a long time. So maybe this is what we need to fix Marvel again. Who knows? From there, let's talk about this one's got me a little bit on the fence. We have a retcon over in DC, and that has to do specifically with Superman, because in the new James Gunn universe for the DCU, in the movies, that place, we have Superman coming on the scene, and he's coming into a world where superheroes already exist, metahumans, if you will, depending on which vocabulary you're using or how you differentiate between the two. Superman's coming into a world where superhumans and metahumans already exist. In the comics, that continuity is a little wonky, because for a while, in modern comics, let's be a little bit more specific, because you have the golden era, the silver era, all that stuff, continuities change. But in current continuity, there's no real definitive, like there's kind of a definitive line as to exactly how this happened, and it's by and large accepted that in the DC continuity, Superman was the first public superhero, and his going public is what caused other superheroes and villains and such to follow suit, to come out. He started the ball rolling, if you will. Though technically there were other meta-human types before him, they were operating in secret, except for a small handful of exceptions, and those handful of exceptions were supposedly wiped from existence when the Watchmen situation happened. I think that was the Doomsday Clock timeline that did that. I could be mistaken, but either way, it was the Watchmen who were supposedly like wiped the slate clean, and then we start fresh with Superman. And now they're changing that again in a book. It is titled, where is it? New History of the DC Universe is the name of this book. It is not an encyclopedia like I was originally thinking it was. If you're seeing a name like that, it kind of sounds like what they would name one of their encyclopedias. It is going to be encyclopedic information told through narrative. The narrative way they're doing it is the Flash, now that he's lost his powers because of the most recent absolute power arc, he is now documenting the history of the universe as far as he can dig it up. And so now that Wally West is the Flash and Barry Allen has no powers, this is his new role in the DCU until he gets his powers back, because we know Barry Allen is going to have his damn powers back. That's just how comic books work. So we're documenting it, and in this documentation we're learning that Superman is not necessarily the special one. Superman is just somebody who's coming on the scene, and he's going to be the new guy that tries the thing, and it changes the dynamic of who Superman is, but I don't think it's so fundamental a change to the core of the character that we really need to worry about it. I actually think this makes the continuity, much like they're attempting to do, this feels like it's going to make the continuity a little bit more continuous, a little bit more easy to follow, a little less comic booky. And that's not exactly a bad thing. Like, sometimes comic books are a little too convoluted and a little too high on themselves. And this is kind of leveling that out. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing per se. I just think it's kind of a neutral thing. Right? So let's move on. From there, we have, this is not a neutral thing. We have the Spider-Man 94 comic book is happening. This is much like there was an X-Men 97 comic before we got the X-Men 97 show. I don't think it was called X-Men 97, but it was the continuation of the animated series that is now no longer canon because the show happened, I think is how that played out. Again, comic book continuity just all over the place, right? So we have something like that for Spider-Man now. It's called Spider-Man 94. It is going to be written by, let me see if I can find his name in the notes, John Semper. Oh no, that's the other guy. Actually being written by, where the hell is it? There it is. Actual writer for the project is J.D. Matthias, and art from Jim Tao. So D. Matthias, or I know I'm not saying his name right either, I apologize. He is the one that wrote for us Kraven's Last Hunt, also the Clone Saga, so he is not unfamiliar with the world of Spider-Man, but he is not John Semper. John Semper is the guy who was the lead writer for the original Spider-Man animated series back in the day. And when questioned about this situation, Semper said that he was never even approached to join the writing cast. He's still actively working. He is still out there doing the thing. And for whatever reason, Marvel just like, we don't have to bring the original guy in. We got this other dude doing it. Which seems like a bit of a snub and seems kind of backhanded. And that's kind of the way that Semper's taking this too. He said that he long ago, this is a quote, long ago abandoned all expectation that Marvel would acknowledge any of my contributions to the Marvel Universe. Like, for instance, my creation of what is now known as the, quote, Spider-Verse. As debuted in 1998 during the first half of the series' two-part finale, Spider Wars, Chapter 1, I Really, Really Hate Clones. That's the name of the first episode where he introduced the language for Spider-Verse. This is the guy that did that, and they're not even acknowledging, they're not even letting him continue writing on the project in which he coined the phrase. So yeah, it's pretty messy. I don't think anything is gonna come of this, but if it does, we'll continue to follow, and let's move on. Next up on the list, we have Cyberpunk Edge Runners is getting a prequel comic. Sorry, the notes, I forgot. prequel comic. This comic is called Edge Runner's Madness. It is from Dark Horse. It will be launching February of 26, and it will be focusing on the character of Rebecca, who fans of the series, of the anime that's on Netflix, fans of the series just wanted more of this character. She didn't really do much until like the last two episodes, I'm pretty sure, at which point everyone was like, oh my god, she's kind of a badass. Can we get more of her, please? Well, now we are. It's just in a prequel comic, and it's called Edge Runner's Madness. It's going to be out next month. There's a preview of it now in the manga in Japanese, but it's in Japanese, so good luck. But either way, in February. There you go. That, I believe, is everything we have for regular ass news. So let's talk about our suggestion this week. Not talking comic book suggestion. We're talking about a book suggestion this week. And it's one that we've suggested before on the channel. It's just been, I think it's been about a year or two since we suggested it, but it's Hyperion by Dan Simmons. The elevator pitch for this book is as follows. It's the Canterbury Tales, but it's in space, and the pilgrims are being hunted by a godlike creature made of razors and pain. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, this book is a classic. If you've never read this, if you're unfamiliar with Dan Simmons, I believe there's a trilogy around Hyperion. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've read 2 of the books. I have not read all of the books, so I think there's only 1 book that I'm missing, but I could be missing more. Either way, Hyperion is where it starts, and it's a great read. Like, I can't tell you a whole lot more without really kind of ruining things for you, but go check it out. It's really good. Hyperion, Dan Simmons, author. You can probably find it for cheap at a used bookstore because it's there and people don't understand how good it is, and now you do. And it's finally happened. It took me an extra 2 weeks just because I couldn't get the damn logo right, but we do have our merch push for June, now that it's July. So it's gonna be up for a little while because I totally missed the mark. It legitimately took me 2 weeks to figure out how to get the logo to work and still be legible and still fit with the other line of stuff, but it is the new Music Nerd shirt. It is the special shirt that we're running right now, the original Music Nerd, if you will, because it is the Phantom of the Opera on the cover, or on the design. It's pretty awesome. I legitimately had a lot of fun, even though it took me longer, a lot of fun designing this one, because I'd never actually done a death metal logo before, and that's what I did effectively for the Music Nerd text. It looks like tree roots. It's much more legible than most death metal bands' logos, but you know, it's still fun. Either way, go check out the merch store linked in the description. You can get your copy or your shirt. I couldn't find the hoodie that I put all the other designs on, so unfortunately the zip-up hoodie is not available, but we do have a bunch of shirts and things. I'm pretty sure I put it on a pullover hoodie instead of the zip-up because, again, I couldn't find it. But either way, that is there finally. I'm super proud of it. Go check out the store. That's all I have to say. Let's get back to the show. All right, so in TV streaming this week, we have a really interesting one. Imagine, if you will, creating one of the most successful TV shows in recent history and then just walking away from it. That's kind of one of the things we've got going on here. On top of that, creators of very famously foul-mouthed cartoon are now blasting the production company they work for's parent company. It's a little convoluted, but it's significant. And we almost now can count down to when the final season of everybody's favorite bloody superhero show is going to be returning. We have that and a bit more in TV, so let's hit it. Follow-ups and corrections, TV shows. No corrections, just a couple follow-ups. First up, The Bear is out. Go watch it. Season 4, it is now a thing. And also, Season 5 has been greenlit. We will be getting a 5th and potentially final season. We'll talk about that in this week's episode of That Just Happened. But also we have The Boys has announced that they have finished principal photography on their final season. So it's only a matter of time now. We don't have a countdown just yet. I don't know exactly what their turnaround is. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6 to 8 months. So by the end of the year, probably November-ish, we'll be seeing the new season of The Boys hit Amazon Prime, so super excited for that. That's what we have for follow-ups. Let's talk about new trailers for stuff that came out this week in TV shows. First up is Black Panther, Eyes of Wakanda. Forgot this was happening. I know we've talked about it on the show before, but totally forgot until I saw the trailer. I was like, oh yeah, this is a thing. And it looks kind of cool. I dig the art. This looks really, really interesting. It is, again, an animated show. It will be hitting Disney Plus in September, specifically September 27th. So, I mean, Disney Plus is kind of what it is, but either way, decent art, if nothing else. From there, let's talk, Robot Chicken. Robot Chicken, this is kind of more of a movie because Robot Chicken is no longer technically a thing, but we do have a 20-year anniversary special. It's called the Self-Discovery Special. It will be on Max, I think is where Robot Chicken goes. Is that right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Max on July 20th. The trailer for this one is exactly what you want it to be because it's Robot Chicken. And when asked about potentially doing more episodes for the series, Seth Green was not super optimistic, so don't hold your breath. But it's kind of still in the cards, assuming this does super well, which I'm not assuming it's going to, sadly, because Robot Chicken is hilarious. That's what we got for that one, though. Our other one is not really a teaser, or is not really a trailer either. It's more of a tease, and it got me so frustrated because it's only 30 seconds and it is for one of the best. It's the adaptation over on Apple TV Plus for Neuromancer. We finally got at least a little bit of a taste of what this is going to look like, and we're starting in the Finn's bar. This is the bar where the story picks up, where Case goes to get drunk and then runs in. Yeah, we see it and it looks kind of exactly like I had pictured it in my head. Close, very, very close to how I had pictured it in my head. I had pictured it, the ceiling being a little bit higher, but either way, I'm stoked. And it's 30 seconds of footage. 30 seconds, and not even the full 30 seconds is footage because you have like titles and stuff. So, but it looks great. Go check it out. Please go check it out to create some hype for this show because Neuromancer is easily one of the top 3 books ever written. Like, not even up for debate. You can't change my mind. It's not even gonna happen. That's what we got for trailers this week, though, on TV. Let's talk about some regular ass news, and we're coming out with South Park for the first story here in regular ass news. So it has been approximately 2 years since we got a season of South Park. Yeah, 2 years since we got a season. We did also get those specials that happened as well, and still nothing. Actually, it might have been 2 years since the last special. I can't remember. 2 years since something. It's been a long time. We haven't seen South Park for a little while, and partially because, as we've been covering on the channel, Warner Brothers Discovery is not Warner Brothers, it's Paramount and the Paramount Media Group are actively merging with Skydance Media Group. This has been a thing for about 2 years. And it was announced a couple days ago that the release date for the current season that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are working on for South Park has been bumped by 2 weeks. And after that came out, no, it was yesterday morning, one of the two. After that came out, they took to their social media and they were just ripping apart Paramount because the merger is getting in the way of so much. Apparently, that is a big reason why they didn't go into specifics as to how this works, but apparently that is a big reason why we have not seen any new South Park for about 2 years. Also, we have had a number of other delays, cancellations, people getting fired, like a lot of stuff related to this merger that has taken forever to go through. And it doesn't seem to be getting any closer to finishing, but with them losing a lawsuit to the Trump campaign, etc., etc. Like, this is just compounding and getting worse, but eventually we'll get some South Park, and according to Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they hope that the fans get to see it because they don't know how that's going to work in the future. So yeah, this is pretty sticky. It's nuts, but as we get closer to something resembling resolution, we'll talk about it. We'll keep following up. Let's move on. The other piece of regular ass news this week is pretty big as well, and it has to do with The Last of Us series co-creator technically, but also the game creator, Neil Druckmann, the dude who is in charge of the things, stepped away. Didn't give a reason, just said, I'm moving on to other stuff, basically. I'm paraphrasing by a lot because there's a whole long announcement. We're not going to get into that detail, but Druckmann stepped away. Also of note here, Haley Gross, maybe, who was co-writer on the second game and also an executive producer on the series, has also stepped away from the project. So Craig Mazin, who is the co-creator of the series, is still there. They still have their original property that they're basing all of this off of. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe Maybe not, hopefully, it's going to stick to the original story. Maybe they'll take some liberties and it'll get better. That's kind of really the hope here, right? Especially now that Druckmann's not a part of the project. He will remain on the credits. He will be credited as an executive producer. He will also be credited with his original concept for the property. So he will still be getting money for the series, but he's no longer going to have an active hand in the creation of new episodes, etc., etc. So that's kind of huge as well. That is, though, what we have for regular ass news. Let's get into our suggestion for the week here in TV streaming, and it is, of course, The Bear, Season 4. I'm still very much on the fence with the way it ended, but the first 8 episodes, because once you get to episode 9, that's where all the funky stuff starts. First 8 episodes are exactly more of the great show that we have all fallen in love with. As of episode 9, is where we will get into some great conversation and when it comes to this week's episode of That Just Happened. But even if you don't appreciate the way it ends, you will 100%. If you've been watching the series up to this point, you will absolutely love those first 8 episodes because they're starting to, you get cohesion, you get a little bit of catharsis. There's some more setbacks and there's more things that happen to create drama and conflict because it is a TV show, but still we're making progress. We have character development, we have story development, and it's good. It's so much fun. There is episode, I think it was episode 4. The episode 4 starts with a little bit of a thing that was like, this feels like they put it in here to pad the runtime, but it's easy to get past. Anyway, your suggestion this week is The Bear Season 4. It's pretty damn good. That's your suggestion. Go watch it. Let's move on.
Subscribe. That is all.
All right, so for movies this week, I have seen some interesting casting decisions in my time. This one kind of make me drop and go, what? So we absolutely have to break down the new casting for a fighting game adaptation to the big screen. We've kind of been keeping tabs on it. In the rumors section, it's deep. We also know now who's going to be directing the secret agent movie, if you will. Again, keeping it vague for the intro. It's a real quick update, but it's really significant in the grand scheme of things. And depending on how you feel about this one, either we're celebrating or we're mourning the loss of a live action adaptation of a classic anime film / manga. That one's actually kind of funny in my opinion. So all of that being said, we've got a movies section to get into. Let's go do that. Follow-ups and corrections. We actually have quite a bit here. We don't have, sorry. Forgive me. Let's get into follow-ups and corrections. James Bond. We now actually know who's going to be directing the very next James Bond movie because after all the speculation and the Edgar Wrights of the problem, we now know it's going to be Denis Villeneuve. Denis, who, did Dune and The Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. That guy, the guy who I always sing his praise when we talk about him on the show. He's going to be directing James Bond, which means I have super high hopes. This is like announcing that David Fincher is going to be doing Bond, which was one of the rumored directors for a moment, which got me super hype as well. I think Denis, though, is getting me a little bit more hype than even Fincher, and Fincher is God. Let's just be honest here, right? So, very high hopes. Denis is a visionary, an auteur, if you will, and I think this will, because the Daniel Craig Bond, those movies were great, but they were more grounded and less fanciful. I think Denis can bring those two elements together in such a way that just completely elevates the property to a brand new level of awesome. I mean, I've watched every freaking Bond film probably at least a half a dozen times. So, I'm a little bit of a fan, you could say. But, yeah, super excited that Denis is taking the job. We will see much more to do with that as time progresses. Also of note here is his wife, Tanya Lapointe. I don't remember how to say it in French. Lapointe. She has stepped in as an executive producer because she is a production partner with Denis. Denis is also going to be executive producing this, so they'll be doing it together with all of the other people who are attached to do the thing. But that's kind of old news aside from those two. The next up on follow-ups for movies, we have Akira. The live action movie that was supposed to be directed by Taika Waititi is no longer happening, so the peasants can rejoice because that had doom written all over it. So yes, Taika is no longer going to be doing it. Kodansha is the publisher of the original manga. They are now shopping the property around to other studios to potentially get it made by somebody else because they do want a live action Akira. I'm happy it's not going to be Taika's version. So there we go. From there, we have Mortal Kombat 2. This is going to be a real quick one. Ed Boon tweeted out a thing where he's singing the praise of the new movie because he watched the final cut and says that these guys nailed it, which gives me a little bit more hope. And then you look at the picture that he tweeted with it, and it just kind of crushes that hope a little bit because Cole Young, what's his name? The actor that plays him. I have it written down. I know I do. Lewis Tan, there we go. Lewis Tan, who is not a terrible actor, but Cole Young is a needless character in a franchise that I absolutely love. I don't know if you've noticed. He's in the picture. I think the only way to salvage at least that very large portion of this new version of the franchise is to kill him off. And if he's in the picture, I mean, it's possible he could. I mean, the Jeremy Allen Wright's doing a bunch of promotion for The Bear, and wait till you get to the end of Bear season 4, you'll understand why that's comparable. But if they could kill him off, they could write him out of the script, and no longer going to be an issue moving forward. Boone also signed off on the first movie, which again, not terrible, definitely better than Armageddon, but dude, that's a really low bar to be celebrating. So I did just a sliver. Boone signs off, says it's good, says it's great, says they nailed it. Sure, it's exciting, but how exciting is the real question here. So I don't know. I'll pass it off to you. Are you excited because Boone's excited, or are you just excited because new Mortal Kombat? Yay! Right? Yeah. So from there, let's move into Batman 2, The Batman 2, aka Matt Reeves' next Batman movie, because it's not going to be titled Batman 2, but he's finished with the script finally. He posted a picture on Instagram that says, hey, look at what I did a thing. So we have a script, which means we're going to start in pre-production. We're going to be doing the development stages of this script, and hopefully James Gunn signs off on it so we can get some momentum going behind this one, and then we can see that happen. That's what we got for follow-ups and corrections. Let's talk about trailers. The first trailer in this section this week is Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Not a follower of the Demon Slayer franchise, but apparently this is a huge deal, so congratulations, Demon Slayer fans, your movie is happening. It looks like it is going to legitimately be pretty damn epic, so cool. I'll probably watch it once it hits streaming, but there we go. Go check out the trailer. September 12th, it's going to be in theaters, and it is going to be in theaters, so again, congratulations, Demon Slayer fans. I know there's a lot of you out there. Running Man is the next trailer we're talking about. November 7th for this Running Man. We've been talking about this one since it was announced, since they did all the casting and everything. This is the version that is supposed to be much closer to the original Stephen King book, Michael Bachman, I guess, technically, which looks to be dramatic. I'm not a Stephen King fan, as you will find out this week in That Just Happened, because I saw and read The Life of Chuck, so we're going to break that down. But the original Running Man was, I know, very much a departure from the book that King wrote. This is going to be much more close to the original text, but how much more, I have no idea. It looks freaking nuts, though, so go watch this trailer. Next in the trailers, a movie that I don't know if we've talked about on the show yet, because I don't remember it being a thing, but The Cat in the Hat is getting an animated movie. It's the first time that we're getting an animated Cat in the Hat movie. It's going to be starring Bill Hader as the voice of the Cat in the Hat. Quinta Brunson, don't know who she's voicing, it didn't say. It's February 26th of 2026 is when it's coming out. The animation looks cel-shaded, not traditional 3D animation, though it is 3D animation, so interesting art style. I can dig it. Not the same, it's not DreamWorks, it's not the same company that brought us the Lorax was one, and the Grinch was the other one that they did, so it's gonna look pretty different, even though it is still technically Dr. Seuss. Go check out the trailer, though. It looks interesting if you're a fan of the Seuss. Next up is new movie that looks super freaking interesting in spite of its weird comparison to The Martian, which was in and of itself a good movie, but I don't know, the two movies feel different enough that it shouldn't necessarily warrant the comparison, but we'll get into that. So it's called Project Hail Mary. It's starring Ryan Gosling. I did not write down the release date for it in here, so go watch the trailer if you're curious about when the release date is, because I take amazing notes. But the interesting things here are Andy Weir is the guy who wrote the book that this movie is based on. He is also the guy that wrote the book that The Martian is based on. Also, the writer for the screen, so the guy who adapted the book to a screenplay is a man named Drew Goddard, who's done a lot of other nerdy things. But also, it's the same guy who adapted The Martian for the screen. So that's pretty huge. The directors on this, you'll also know their names from nerdy stuff, and that is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. These are the guys that brought us, oh, what the hell? Spider-Man. The Spider-Verse. They're the Spider-Verse guys. So, of course, they have names in the nerdy community. So, looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. It also has much more of like a horror kind of vibe than The Martian ever really did, which is really cool. And also potentially we're going to be seeing aliens based on the trailer. So I'm down. Let's do this. That is what we have for trailers though. So let's talk about some regular ass news this week in movies. First up, Lilo and Stitch 2 has been officially greenlit. They made the announcement on the 26th, which was approximately 2 days after I filmed last week's episode, so I wouldn't have known it then, but it technically was announced before last week's episode went up because the editing is taking me forever anymore. Anyway, 626, Lilo is Project 626, right? It makes sense. That's pretty cool. Just a real quick update there. We have another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This one is super awesome. If you are a millennial and you grew up on the Turtles, you're going to want to listen. To celebrate the 35th anniversary of the first live action movie, we have Fathom Entertainment, Saga Arts, and Warner Brothers are going to be putting the original movie back in theaters. You can get tickets for it now. It is not going to be until September 17th and 20th. Those are the 2 days. It's not going to be 17th to the 20th. It's 17th and the 20th. The 17th is a Sunday. The 20th is a Wednesday. There's in the theater near me, there's going to be 3 showings, 2 on the 17th, 1 on the 20th. So maybe it's different near you. Go check fathomentertainment.com. The search for the Ninja Turtles, because it's not on their front page yet, but I'm sure it will be as we get closer to the event. It is going to be more than just the original movie. It's going to be a bit more of an event than just, hey, we get to watch one of our favorite movies on the big screen again, since the first time since we were little kids, which in and of itself is great, don't get me wrong, but there's going to be extra stuff attached to this. We're going to get a new featurette called Turtles Unmasked, which is, I don't know exactly what that's going to be. And then we're going to see some new behind the scenes, never before seen footage. Also additional commentary from director Steve Barron. So a lot of stuff. It's going to be pretty awesome. I don't know exactly what the layout's going to be, if they're going to do the extra bits first or if they're going to do the extra bits after the movie. So you got to stick around after the credits. Would make sense that they would do it after the movie, I think, because they always trying to get you to watch credits. If you don't sit around and watch credits, I don't necessarily blame you, but I feel like it's cool. You learn interesting things about the way movies are made just even from reading the credits. So I usually nerd out and stick around and read the credits. But yeah, so Ninja Turtles back in theaters celebrating 35 years of the original live action movie. Once again, go check out fathomevents.com or fathomentertainment.com, and you can get tickets for it now at participating Fathom Events theaters. From there, the other giant elephant in the room this week is Street Fighter. Wow, this kind of went a little nuts. So this is confirmation of some rumors that we talked about that I honestly put the rumors very low because I did not believe that Jason Momoa was going to actually be playing Blanca. It just did not compute in my brain, and now I was proven wrong because Jason Momoa is going to be playing freaking Blanca in this new movie. The officially announced cast are as followed. Roman Reigns is going to be playing Akuma, who was part of the leak originally. Once again, Jason Momoa Blanca. Andrew Koji is going to be playing Ryu. Noah Centineo is going to be playing Ken, which Andrew Koji as Ryu is perfect casting, I feel like. I don't know about the Noah guy, and I can't remember what else I've seen him in. The one that also super duper surprised me was Orville freaking Peck is going to be playing Vega. Okay. Orville Peck as Vega, and the one that makes the absolute most sense for this one is Andrew Schultz playing Dan. Dan was created as a joke for the franchise. Andrew Schultz is a comedian, so a comedian playing a joke character. It's just a little too meta for my brain to handle. I literally like laughed out loud when I heard that casting. And then the other huge one here is so freaking weird. We have David Dastmalchian, who you'll remember as Polka Dot Man from The Suicide Squad. He was also in Batman Returns, or Dark Knight Returns rather, Dark Knight Rises, the second Dark Knight movie. He was also in The Late Night with the Devil, which was last week's movie recommendation. He was the lead for that movie. Dude's got a lot of stuff. He's in Life of Chuck ever so briefly as well, which again we're going to talk about in this week's episode of That Just Happened. He's everywhere, and he's going to be playing M. Bison in this, which is like almost weird enough to follow in the footsteps of Raul Julia playing M. Bison, but I don't know if he's quite that level of great as Raul Julia, because nobody's ever going to beat that M. Bison. Like, that's just not going to happen. But this goes on with the announcement last week of Chun-Li. I can't remember the actress's name, I apologize, but 50 Cent playing Balrog. Those two were confirmed last week. And this cast is just like, this is the most fan servicey cast I think I've seen in a long damn time. And a lot of these casting choices make a hell of a lot of sense. Very, very curious as to what Jason Momoa is going to do as Blanca, but also having such a big name actor in that role means they're going to take that character seriously, which is something we've never seen before. So that's awesome. Anyway, that is what we have for Street Fighter. Let's talk about our final new movie announced, and this technically is a new movie announcement news piece though. Meet the Parents is getting a 4th installment. They are now moving forward with pre-production. Confirmed returning for the project are Owen Wilson, Robert De Niro, Terry Polo, and obviously Ben Stiller. New addition to the cast for this movie, again confirmed so far, is solely Ariana Grande. Super interesting because the genesis behind the idea of doing a 4th Meet the Fockers movie is Ben Stiller is now the age that Robert De Niro was when they made the first movie. So it'll be like coming full circle, like the whole Lego sequel thing that Hollywood has been doing for the last 15 years anyway. So, but this I think feels a little bit more organic because the spacing of these movies kind of fits the way that this is coming out. So yeah, there's that. That's what we have for news. Let's talk about our suggestion for the week. This one, a little bit from left field, not gonna lie. I watched this movie most recently, was probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. It's a movie called Green Room. It came out in 2015. The elevator pitch for this one is a punk band witnesses a murder at a neo-Nazi club and has to fight for their lives to get out. And it's more thriller, I think, than horror, but still feels very much in the realm of horror. Once you get into the club that they realize far too late is a Nazi club. But like, I don't know, just a really fun might not be the best word for such things, but solid, we'll say solid, a really solid little thriller that kind of exists inside of this realm that you don't see in movies a lot, which is aggressive music, punk rock music. These are punk rockers. They're doing the punk rock thing. They're playing out of their van. They're taking gigs that they don't really trust the promoter so well, but they've got money, so they gotta eat, right? That kind of stuff. So a side of the music industry you don't see a whole lot of, and they do it pretty decently. Again, it's been a little while since I've watched it, but I remember having a good time watching it, and there's some gore. So if you're a gore fan, there's a little bit in there for you. It's pretty cool. But that's your suggestion for the week. Green Room. I did not see where this was streaming, though I'm sure it's streaming on a couple of different platforms because it's a lesser known movie. Also, kind of note here, Patrick Stewart is in the movie, ever so briefly, but Patrick Stewart is in the movie. So there you go.
It's classified.
And then the rumor mill is, well, it was a fan theory, it was a punchline, it was a running joke for years, Now it's been confirmed. We actually do know that the certain someone is actually in the MCU. It's been revealed in Ironheart. You already know what I'm saying by just doing that. We are also going to be digging into a certain school for gifted youngsters, if you catch my drift. Rumors surrounding a new series and how that's going to factor into the MCU at large and before the movie comes out and all the things. And we also potentially, according to the rumors, have certain Jedi Master returning for another season of his titular show that seems to kind of be out of the blue, if you ask me, to be quite honest, and things and stuff. We've got some interesting rumors, a confirmation, and a whole bunch of stuff. So let's talk about the rumor mill, shall we? All right, confirmations, refutations. Technically, we have a couple of confirmations this week for the rumor mill. First up is the Street Fighter thing. Like, seriously, what the hell is that cast? Wow. And other confirmation is Mephisto. We now officially know that Sacha Baron Cohen is in fact playing Mephisto because he was in Ironheart. The most recent episode, the last episode of the season. I wasn't watching it. I've just been reading the news because, wow. But screen captures and things have shown us what Mephisto looks like, and Sacha Baron Cohen looks pretty decent as Mephisto. No word exactly what this means for the character moving forward in the MCU, though generally speaking, they like to sign 5-picture contracts, 3 movies where the actor is heavily featured, and then 2 movies where they do cameos. This is kind of a modification of that, I'm sure, because this cameo is not in a movie, it's in a TV show, but it's still a cameo, so probably we're going to see him in a couple of movies. Very likely the 2 Avengers movies and maybe something else attached to it, like, say, Spider-Man, though that could be the other cameo, who knows. At this point, we just know for sure we have a Mephisto. How long we have a Mephisto is kind of up in the air. Let's get into new sources for old rumors, because we've got a couple of them this week. First up is Star Wars Starfighter. We now have word, not officially, but word, that she very likely is going to be playing the villain. So kind of what I predicted in the last one, because you can't see Gosling as a proper villain. An anti-hero, I can see that. He's done that kind of a couple of times, but as the villain, as the antagonist of the story, he's not gonna do that. He's too pretty. Mia Goth, on the other hand, doesn't give a shit. She's pretty awesome, and her being the villain, I think, is kind of a cool thing. The other follow-up, or new source for old rumor rather, is Thor. This new source elaborates on the fact that we are going to be getting a 5th Thor movie, and they even have a name for it called Thor Quest. I don't think this one's legit. Honestly, if we were giving percentages on new sources for old rumors, this would kind of drop the likelihood that we're going to see a new Thor movie, though I do still think we are going to see a new Thor movie, but just one new one. Anyway, from there, let's talk about new rumors, because that's why you're actually here, right? So first up, we have The Sound of Music is getting remade, and not just that, but Rachel Zegler is going to be playing the lead in The Sound of Music. All right, so if you've never seen The Sound of Music because you're a little too young for it, because it came out in the 70s, 60s, something, which is a little before my time even, because I'm not that old. Let me give you a little bit of a recap of the story. It takes place in Nazi Germany. Rachel Zegler is not exactly somebody who would survive very long on the streets of Nazi Germany, if you follow what I'm saying. So, like, I feel like with Disney trying to course correct and like actually make money, this does not jibe with what we have seen to be true, because things have been changing. Look at the recent changes with Elio, look at the recent changes in the MCU, look at the recent changes in supposed changes in Star Wars. We have seen less of the Star Wars stuff, but still, like, we have seen some changes in these properties. So for them to completely flip that around and go with, not that I dislike Rachel Zegler, I just feel like this role is not something that makes sense to put her in. Also, why do we need to remake this movie? Like, the timeliness is way off. Unless you're going to fundamentally change the story of this movie to something more modern, at which point, why do this at all again? Because you're just going to piss off everyone at that point. Not just the people who are already going to be mad that you're putting Rachel Zegler in the lead, but then everyone who was a fan of the original movie, because, like, there's a good message there. There's stuff, there's substance, and you're changing the fundamental elements of that. The substance goes away. So this one seems a little bit less likely, though not unlikely. So we're going to say about 40% that we're going to be seeing Rachel Ziegler in the lead role for The Sound of Music. Like, really? What the... Continuing on, let's talk about Avengers Doomsday. We now have a new rumor that has placed Luke Cage's character squarely in the movie. Avengers Doomsday is going to be a gigantic cast. Fan servicey thing to do would have a cameo of some sort for Luke Cage. I don't think that means anything bigger going forward for the character, but I do think it is going to go a long way to do some fan service. So that the big part of that is 70%. Also, the source is pretty solid. So 70% likely we will be seeing Luke Cage in Avengers Doomsday. Next up, we have a Star Wars rumor that is only in name a Star Wars rumor, but it goes that Dakota Johnson, the 50 Shades Grey broad, she was also in the Madam Web. She was Madam Web. She is now reportedly cast in an undisclosed role for an undisclosed Star Wars movie. The way this one came out and through the sources that it did very much seems like the people that Dakota Johnson has, like, getting her involved in things, like her manager and her agent and so on and so forth, sounds like they might just be putting things out to rumor mongers, saying that this is a thing just to kind of test the waters so they can see if that's something they would actively want to pursue, because people may or may not actually want to see Dakota Johnson in a Star Wars movie. So I don't think this is legit. So we're looking at about 20% likely that Dakota Johnson will actually be in a Star Wars movie. From there, we're going to talk about Obi-Wan. This one's interesting. Comes from a freaking solid source who has a pretty good track record, but also kind of flies in the face of a lot of the things that we already know to be true about the Obi-Wan stuff. Ewan McGregor has alluded to there not being a second season for the show. A number of other things have really led us to believe that they're not going to do it, though they haven't said explicitly, because they do want to leave it on the table that they could potentially do this someday. I'm sure. It is Disney. They do like money after all. And Obi-Wan did okay. It wasn't great, but some of it was watchable, I guess we could say. Like, by and large, I didn't even finish. I didn't watch the last episode because I was so disappointed with it. But that's just me, and I'm an asshole. So, like, the second season seems to potentially be in the cards. It just doesn't, I don't know. There's a lot of things I think they have to correct first before that happens. And I don't know if they can get them done in time to keep Ewan McGregor's interest, unless his only interest is money, in which case they're going to do it anyway. So we're going to put this one right down the middle. 50% likely that there will be a second season of Obi-Wan. Just there's a lot of stuff on both sides, so it could go either way. And then our final rumor for this episode is the X Academy. Previously, there was supposedly in the works a Nova Academy show for Disney Plus, and now that has altered from Nova to X-Men, being the Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters is getting a series, supposedly, on Disney Plus that is going to introduce the MCU to the concept of mutants, and specifically the X-Men, before we get an actual X-Men movie, according to the rumor. But the source is not great, though there have been a number of other sources also reporting on this, so that kind of plays in its favor. But if we're looking at the hard evidence of what's been stated by Disney at this point, and that is we're rolling things back, we're not going to have characters from TV shows play major roles in movies and vice versa. We also are going to be doing less properties in the MCU per year. Those two things are really counting against this. If it wasn't for those two announcements, this would be much, much higher in probability. But as it stands right now, we're looking at about 30% likely that we will actually be seeing the X Academy, or whatever the hell they're going to call such a show. So that is what we have for rumors, for new rumors. Let's talk about a little bit of speculation, because I feel like the Mortal Kombat 2 thing is starting to ramp up the hype machine for it. So I think this is totally speculation. It's very minor speculation on my part as well, because there wasn't anything really to speculate on this week that was like big and crazy. But I do think we're going to be seeing a Mortal Kombat 2 trailer sometime before the end of September. I'm super stoked for it. I can't imagine if they have a final cut of the movie, then that means all that's left is promotion, and so we should be seeing it soon. Honestly, I would say sooner rather than later, but to kind of hedge my bets a little bit, we're going to say September is the deadline. If we don't see something by the end of September, then I'm completely wrong, but that's my speculation for the episode. That's what we got for the rumor mill this week, nerds. Which leads us to housekeeping this week. Housekeeping. Oh, things are about to get a little crazy. So this week is 4th of July, so happy Mog holiday, I guess you could say. So 4th of July is happening, and then the week following, we're going to be going to a concert, Social D. That will be putting a little bit of an interruption into things, and then the following week, a little over a week after that, I have a family thing that I have to go out of town for, so that's gonna screw things up at the end of the month. And then the week after that, we have about a month and a half of weeks of where things are going to be iffy. We're very potentially going to switch to live format for a couple of weeks. We're very potentially going to have to skip a couple of weeks, so we'll be putting up some reaction videos just so that it's not dead content. And yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at for housekeeping behind the scenes stuff. That is what we've got though. So thank you very much, nerds, for sticking around. I appreciate your faces. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with everyone you know, because that is the way that this grows, is word of mouth. Do the thing. Tell your friends, your enemies, and your grandma that if they're looking for the best place to get the entertainment news, that Generally Nerdy is the place. Yeah, I appreciate your faces, nerds. We will see you in the next one. Don't forget to grab your dubby, and always remember that if it's Generally Nerdy, it's probably here.